First of all, thank you very much for being here. We want to make it very clear we have been an organization that have been here for a long time, 8 years. We're primarily been operating in Scandinavia, Sweden, Norway, and Oslo. But now we think it's the time to be more involved in the whole Nordic region. That's why we're here, and we're extremely happy to get this extended invitation to come here, and especially being on stage as one of the first one. Glad to hear it's a rehearsal, so bear over with me. So Nordic Blockchain Association, I'll go over here. As you can see, we existed since 2017. The way we are organized is we are member-driven. That means all members got to vote for the General Assembly. General Assembly elects the board. The board then decides on the C-level team. So I've been appointed, been here now for 2 years. As mentioned, been here since 2017. We have been multiple different things, and as you saw on the agenda, we talked a little bit about the voice. So I'll try to elaborate on what we see the ecosystem should have of a voice, how we could do it. In the first couple of years, we were really focusing on just getting together. So having a lot of meetups, a lot of events. We did multiple different things. We did POCs, we did a lot of hackathons, a lot of different things. But over the years, we kind of found out that what we actually think is the most important is to unite and have some leadership. So showcase all the great things that people are working on. We do that by our membership. We have some steering committees. The steering committees is the one that I'm going to talk a little bit more about today. We got meetups, webinar, events, and conferences. We had 6 yearly conferences in a row. Unfortunately, not one during COVID. 100 plus meetups, done webinars, publication, hackathons. We have around 100 plus. When I say 100 plus, when you've been here for 8 years, you have a lot of partnerships. And yeah, 100 of volunteers. Again, mention everyone are volunteering at this organization because we really believe that we need to have a really good voice and platform as an ecosystem. A little bit about myself, educated as an auditor, commercial law and business administration, worked in this industry 2.5 years as a consultant for larger enterprises and how to implement blockchain. I was more on how do you actually get it to work. So that was primarily a lot in supply chain. That was back in 17, 18, 19. We were going really far with our setup and with all the industrial players we were talking to. Unfortunately, then COVID came and it was a little bit of a setback. In 19, I was part of creating a fund, Boston-based. We had good 4 years there. We deployed our first fund, did 60 plus investments, and I chose not to join the second fund because that meant I had to go to the US. So the reason I joined NBA and spending time here is that when I'm looking around just this room and all the people that I've met, we got a really strong ecosystem. We got a lot of great companies here, a lot of great builders. They tend maybe to move out. So my personal reason was to unite the Nordic so we could have a good investment scene. We have a bunch of members. I'm not going to bore you so much with the slides, but a lot of members, a lot of partners. Maybe to add to this one, and this is for everyone to know as well. As an organization, we get a lot of partnerships opportunities. So as well, we have a lot of tickets, a lot of speakers opportunities. We work with different trade councils and embassies around the world. So again, this is me as well coming to Baltikum to say we got opportunity where the platform can be utilized for everyone. We had a really good webinar just with the Polish embassy where we managed to get 4 different ambassadors to come in and elaborate on blockchain in the best capacity they could and how we could foster good cross-border interaction between the ecosystem. We are, as you can see, primarily, unfortunately, located in Copenhagen, but that's where the core team sit, but we have representatives throughout the different regions. Sander have been so kind to join the organization, which for us means a lot, so we can build closer ties. As well, we got Magnus sitting here around as well from there we go, from Oslo. We got Emily from Cefello in Sweden and Caesar. And then we got Kevin and Robert who are presenting here afterward as well. So we kind of see ourselves as some ambassador for the ecosystem. So in my opinion, when the theme is kind of a voice, there's 2 different, we try to simplify 2 different steps. You need to meet, right? We basically need to do stuff like that, right? We need to make sure that the ecosystem works together, are aligned, and have that unity so we know what the most important things we need to fix as a community, but as well, this gives us a lot better way to help with some of our solution to other industries. So for us, we really find these monthly meetups and conferences and events like this extremely important. We kind of see that this is where we kind of align in between. We had a good discussion around the pizza regarding DAOs and were we complicating things too much when we need to implement Mika. So having things like this is extremely important for the ecosystem and for people working within our industry. I kind of see this is where we engage with each other, but this is where we as well encourage each other. I mean, I've been an entrepreneur as well. Working on your own project or working on a small team, it's often not easy. So I really think that the most important step is what we're doing here today. That's to unite and engage and encourage each other. Just give you an example of what we have done, just to put some example, we try to take a little bit theme-based, but Mika, of course, have a big implementation, a big effect on us. So we do everything as roundtables. We had a really good session on more the best practice in licensing. Previously, we did a lot about metaverse and NFTs, but what we really tried to do in the last couple of years is take something that the industry can use, so we can discuss it and take it out and get it out there. So again, the Mika, we had our e-conference with the Polish embassy. We as well have a new initiative called Females Block Tech, which is a strong community of female working within the industry. So a little bit of giving an idea of what we've done just in the last 3 months. We as well got a yearly conference that we've done. Yeah, this is going to be the 7th, where we have around 500 to 700. That's kind of the max capacity, where it's around good content and good topics, so people can actually work and engage. And we're lucky as well. I think we got 70% coming outside of Copenhagen, where we had the last couple of years conference. So, I mean, we're talking about a voice. I think we, as a community, managed to have extremely good voice over the years. I mean, if we look at how much attention we actually got about the technology, maybe in my opinion, being a little bit too much about financial gain, bad actors, which of course is in all industries, but at least if you look in Denmark and Sweden, a lot of the topics, and if you ask the common consumer, that's what pops in mind. So for us, what we kind of defined last year after talking to a lot of our members and good friends of the organization was that we need to define and change status quo. And what does that actually mean? That means we need to change something which maybe takes time, maybe it's a little bit boring. I mean, going through a lot of law papers, going through steering committee is maybe not that exciting as creating a new project, but we spent the time on defining 3 things that we find extremely important. Industry finance, I'll go a little bit more into depth to them, but industry finance for everything for startup, education, startup hubs, best practice. I mean, let's talk about what it can actually be used for. Let's try to be a little bit more tangible. Luckily, in my opinion, AI got ChatGPT right now. Now everyone is talking about what that could bring of great things that's non-defined. I think the technology we have right now can actually solve something very tangible. So we want to highlight things that's happening right now. Of course, we want to talk about the future, but let's showcase all the great projects out there. And then legal and advocacy. I mean, here in Estonia, it's I mean, they're so far in front of just Denmark, the way we are operating, right? I mean, the way that you can get and you have the opportunity to work very closely to the legislature. So for us going in and saying there is global regulation, there is Nordic regulation, there is local regulation. I mean, let's work together and basically change that. So that's step number 2, what we initiated this year. Instead of doing a lot of other things, we want to put all the energy into these 3 different steering committees. And if we give a little bit example of how they would look like, again, things need to be membership driven. So that means it's not my opinion. I'm just a tool. It's not the organization, but it's actually what the members. So that's what we spent last year about talking to all the members. The members are part of initiating thing, co-hosting it. NBA as a facilitator. We have these 3 different things, and then we use NBA as a platform to engage with the policymaker, the media outlet, the university. So for us, we can now already see in the 4 months we have started it, having a common voice. It's a lot easier for an individual company or startup to actually have a voice and going out there. So with the crypto report that's going to be talked a little bit about later on, it was extremely good media coverage that managed to get. I mean, if just one company was doing a survey, it wouldn't get a lot of attention, but now as an industry going together, it would get a lot of attention for it. If we take the industry finance, again, it's both. We need more finance, but in our opinion, we need to talk about what kind of finance. That's why we have the ethical point out there. I worked as a venture capital. ERC20 was great. ICO was great return. But right now, maybe some of them are struggling on performance. Let's maybe talk about what is a sustainable finance and investment model in here. I think real world assets and fractionals, people had NFTs where you can be able to take real estate and give the opportunity to people that maybe can't afford to get into real estate. I think that's a good finance model. So for us, both talking about what can it be used for more than the classic crypto financial, but as well in other industries, extremely important. But as well going in and talking, I'll go a little bit more into details, going in and just take this discussion. I think a lot of people understand crypto tokens in some kind of capacity, right? But it's a lot more, right? It's a lot more from a VC or institutional. We really want to talk about the digital identity, digital asset, digital wallets. And some of the examples that I gave over here is that we can talk about, and we will hear a lot of amazing things throughout this conference and an hour as well. But at the end of the day, I mean, let's find something that everyone understands, like green transition. That's something we need to be part of as industry. Governance, national security, financial infrastructure. So we try to take and make it a little bit more into Web 2, Web 1, the real world, try to translate it into it. So when we talk to venture capitalists, at least all the dialogue that I have with a lot of the classic Nordic, they don't really get it, right? Because it seemed too complicated. What about what you're saying we're doing ESG reporting, or we're doing carbon credit trading? I mean, let's try to use an analogy. We're working on a new initiative as well, where we just want to help people raise capital. So we now managed to get a huge database of 3,000 different investors that are investing into the industry. Now we're going to make that public, so startups have the opportunity to match in a good capacity. So this is an example of, we launched the steering committee. We had a good discussion. The steering committee is made out of members. They kind of said, okay, we need to make sure we actually talk about the real thing. We want to get a little bit more out of crypto tokens. We rather want to talk about this is the things we're solving. So how do you target it? I mean, there's the retail investors. We're now focusing a little bit more on institutional investors and business angels. How can we educate them? But for sure, public funding as well. We haven't managed in NBA to get any public funding for 4 years. For some weird reason, we even managed to get year of the conference last year, but still, we're maybe too exotic. So again, part of changing the narrative. We got the best practice steering committee. It's about knowledge sharing, best practice development, and use case deep dive. Go a little bit more into what we then do, just to make it tangible. We kind of identified that it would be important to have some initiatives. So we already started doing webinars, as the one that I elaborated on earlier on, where we can go in and say, okay, as a more established player, what would you actually need? We talk to the trade council and try to quantify it into it. After our conference, the whole idea is now we're going to actually work on something more concrete. It could be working on different white papers or publication towards specific sectors where a solution with blockchain would be great. I can see I'm running a little bit out of time, so I'll hurry up a little bit. Again, an example of how we operate. I think more the conclusion there and showing that is that we really try to be the facilitator, so the builders can be builders. You shouldn't spend time on the paperwork. We'll do that and the processes. And just a good example, this one actually happened and just started a month ago. We had a bunch of members who were saying, hey, Jakob, why don't we have any female leads, right? Why don't we have something that's about diversity and inclusiveness, which technology doesn't really have an opinion on where you're from, how old you are. So that was a great idea. They initiated by themselves, and 2 weeks after, we had a meetup with 50 people, where we had different females elaborate on their way into the industry, but as well talking about some of these more international. That's the legal. Hold it. There we go. There we go. That's okay. So we have this one in regards of it. But again, 20 seconds left. So this was the legal. But the idea is to... Yeah. No one said anything. Okay. Yeah, so this is just to give you an example, right? We try to make sure what is the EU level directive, the Nordic legislation, and of course international framework. We try to sit down and identify which one is important for us as industry. We then make sure, highlight, this is a Danish example, which is extremely stupid. They're going down the wrong path. So we're trying to help them out. But again, have an open dialogue. What is the different things that the industry find important? And you might find something else. Please let us know. But this is kind of identifying as a group. And then we will try to convince them. We already have the opportunity to go on and present to legislators, both in Denmark and in other countries. So we want to finalize this so we have a common voice. Again, it's not my opinion, it's the ecosystem's opinion. And there we had the female. I'll wrap up the last one. So thank you very much for inviting me. I think it's really good to be here as well and being out again and part of this event. Again, NBA, what we're trying to do is we want to build an ecosystem. We want to make sure that it's the members to set the agenda. NBA should be the framework and the voice and the platform for the ecosystem. Boom, that's it.
Thank you, Jakob. Thank you, Jakob. And one of the things that maybe is important to note here is that when it comes to the whole representation of the whole community of builders, then in Estonia's case, everything started in the second half of 2014 when it was like the first time someone in the regulatory sphere mentioned cryptocurrencies. And it's been like a strong union of which used to be named Estonian Cryptocurrency Association, now renamed into Estonian Web3 Chamber, who's also co-organizer for the event here. Recently, or a year ago, we started looking at okay, so when it comes to Web3, it is always something without borders. When it comes to all regulation, it's usually something which is very with borders, that type of thing. Except when it comes to now trying to collaborate to make sure that the whole regions are thinking the same way, then that's where we started talking with Jakob and some other country leads across the Nordics and Baltics to really start pulling the resources together to speak the same language so that the whole region, starting from here, later to Europe, and hopefully the world in the end, would all understand what is Web3 in the same way. And that's where I'm very thankful for Jakob being here today. And if you want to know more what's happening in Nordics, grab him later.
I'm here all week. Thank you very much.